These are the definitive technology DM70s. These are not the flagship models, they're actually a step below. And again, thank you to Def Tech for sending these out for me to review. So let's go ahead and get this thing unboxed. So this comes pretty nicely packaged. So I'm just gonna remove the foam and then I'm just gonna slide it right out. So included inside the box, we get the power cord because these are powered towers. And then here we have 4 spikes for the feet. So here we have it. This looks very similar to the older model, the BP series. I think I actually covered this over on Eliza's channel a few years back. So if you guys missed that review, well, it actually wasn't a review, but there's a video about the older BP series on the channel. But again, these are the newest models, the Dymension series. This is the DM70. Obviously, it is covered in this cloth grill all the way around the entire speaker. So I can't even show you what the drivers look like. But let's first measure out the speaker and see how big it is. This does come in at about 15 inches deep from front to back. It's about 7¼ inches wide. And then height-wise, we are looking at about 47½ inches tall. And it is a pretty heavy speaker. It does weigh 74 pounds. So behind the cloth grill, there is a 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter. It's got 2 5¼ inch mid-bass drivers, and it's got a single 10-inch subwoofer built into it, as well as 2 10-inch passive radiators, which will give this speaker a response of 30 Hertz up to 23K. And it is powered by a 250 watt amplifier, which is located right here in the back. And you can also, right back here, you can adjust the subwoofer level. There's also a 0 dB or -6 dB rear tweeter. So just like in the front where you got the 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter and the 2 5¼ inch mid-bass drivers, which is also mirrored on the back. So there is a 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter back here, and then the 2 5¼ inch mid-bass drivers. So if you want this to be more direct sounding, you would put this on the -6 dB, but if you want to get the full bipolar effect, you put it on 0 dB, and then everything, the front and the rear, will fire at the same level, which gives it a nice big kind of spacious sound stage up front. Also back here, you get your binding posts for your inputs. So this is for your regular speaker inputs. Then above this guy is the height input. So if you want to opt for the DM90, which are the additional height channels, which would mount to the top of the speaker. So you would drop the actual DM95s right on top, and it would angle upwards for your Dolby Atmos bounce house kind of effect, which is pretty cool. And last but not least, in this whole setup, I do have their flagship center channel speaker. This is the definitive technology DM30. This is a very big center channel speaker. Width-wise, we are looking at 31½ inches wide. From top to bottom, it is 7.5 inches in height, and depth-wise, from front to back, we are looking at approximately 15.9 inches deep, and it's heavy. It weighs 54 pounds. This is not a lightweight center channel speaker. What makes it so heavy is the complement of drivers that's in the speaker. Right in the center of the speaker, which is behind the speaker grill cloth, which is non-removable, there is a 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter. Flanking the tweeter, there are 2 on the left and 2 on the right side, 5¼ inch mid-range drivers. And then what makes the speaker so special is on the top, there is a powered 8-inch subwoofer right behind this grill right there. 8-inch subwoofer, and then flanking the 8-inch subwoofer, there's 2 8-inch passive radiators. So the frequency response of this speaker goes down to 36 Hertz up to 30K. So this should be very deep sounding and also have some really crisp highs. Around back, we do have the power inlet. Again, this is a powered subwoofer, just like the DM70 towers. So you will have to plug this in if you want to get the 8-inch subwoofer to start working. Your regular binding post right here. And then this is the volume control for the subwoofer that is built in. There is no dedicated LFE input, so it is just basically a powered full range center channel speaker. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get everything all set up. I'm going to hook up the center channel speaker and then the DM70s in my home theater. Keep in mind that this is only a 3-channel setup, just the left and right and the center channel speaker. For setup, I'm going to be placing the speakers in my dedicated home theater. Since it's only 3 speakers, I'm going to be using the left channel, the right channel, and the center channel speaker. They're going to be hooked up to a Trinov Altitude processor. powered by a pair of Trinnov Amplitude 8M amplifiers. I'm also going to be using a Kaleidoscape for demos. The first demo that we're going to check out is Fury. This is from the Kaleidoscape and it does have a Dolby Atmos mix, although, like I said, it's only going to be in 3 channels. Keep in mind that I am not using a subwoofer in any of these demos. And because these are powered towers, these things hit almost as if they are using subwoofers. They are that kick-ass. These things can belt out near chest slamming bass. I would assume maybe if I was up to the bigger models, they'd hit a lot harder. They actually rocked my room enough to really shake my chair and almost give me the same tactile feedback that I would get with probably say 12-inch subwoofer. But this is dual 10s, but this still rocks pretty hard. I'm gonna say probably about 40 hertz on up, this thing really does slam. So every time that I would hear the tanks fire, the tanks blast, or those machine guns go off, you can really feel the room kind of just like resonate and just pump with a lot of low end frequency. The high end frequency, they actually kind of have almost like a smooth top end to them. So with those 50 cals machine guns blasting off in the background, you do get a really nice, sharp, clear, detailed presence. Although when you're really cranking this soundtrack, which I know you're going to because it just has a rock and Atmos track, they never get ear piercing at all. But the detail is really crisp. You can hear some really good atmospherics. But really this test, I really wanted to check out how good the subwoofers were in these towers, and these things can really bang incredibly hard. They don't have the same reverberation as you get with the dedicated subs, like I said, so you don't get really that pressurization throughout the room. But just on their own, if you are in a smaller space, maybe like a mid to small space, I think you can definitely get away with not using a subwoofer. These things rock hard. The next demo that we're going to check out is War for the Planet of the Apes. I picked this demo because it has a really good atmospheric mix. It's going to be hard to tell in this demo, but since these speakers have that bipolar radiation pattern with the drivers on the front and on the back, if you have this set to 0 dB, you do get, well, I heard a really big, very large, expansive horizontal soundstage. Movies like this, A Quiet Place, War for the Planet of the Apes, which really rely on really wide, detailed atmospherics, this really does broaden the soundstage horizontally. If you were to use these speakers with more DM70s as surround speakers and also as back speakers, maybe the bipolar effect might kind of blend in and let the effects maybe sound a little bit too big, maybe not as directional. So for me personally, I would probably opt to turn the little switch on the back to the -6 dB, which gives it a more direct feel to it. You still get a little bit of ambiance to it, a little bit of that extra depth, but it does have a more direct feel to it. So, I mean, if you want to get more precise, I did prefer to knock it down to the -6 dB. With just 3 channels, you do get a pseudo surround effect. So it does kind of nearly wrap around from the front all the way to almost to where your side channels would be. So you do get a nice, really big, expansive horizontal soundstage. And like I said, this does have some pretty good upper end detail as well. So when you're hearing like the birds, the insects, just the atmospheric effects, you really do get that nice, nearly pinpoint imaging. You can hear where certain things are placed within this specific scene, which is something I really like, especially with these atmospheric mixes. Now there's no bass in this scene, so really the subwoofers didn't have too much to do. There's a little bit of low end rumble, which does get picked up from the built-in subwoofers, but this scene is specifically just for the atmospheric effects. So if you are, if you are in like a small bedroom, again, small, medium-sized space, and you don't have options to put side surrounds or back surrounds, you want to keep it simple, just use left and rights and the center. I mean, this is going to give you a really expansive soundstage for sure. The next demo that we're going to check out is The Rise of Skywalker. This is the scene with Palpatine, and as you know, this specific movie has a lot of good bass in the center channel.
The might of the final order will soon be ready. It will be yours if you do as I ask. Kill the girl, end the Jedi, and become what your grandfather Vader could not. You will rule all the galaxy.
The center channel does have a powered 8-inch subwoofer and two 8-inch passive radiators. For the size of this center channel speaker, I'm gonna put it right up there with like center channels such as the Perlison R7C, also with the Focal Utopia. Those are much bigger center channel speakers. They both have this nice weighty, deep resonance from them. And for this demo, Palpatine has this really deep, rich, weighty, heavy, bassy voice that really projects out into the room. And because the center channel speaker isn't all that big, I mean, it's big, but it's not like as big as the Perlison or even the Focal. For such a small-ish size center speaker, that built-in 8-inch subwoofer really, I mean, you can really feel the bass coming from directly from the screen. So you feel that weight just like pushing straight out you, and you can feel the floor rumble beneath you. Not too many center channel speakers can do that, especially with this, since it is powered. You don't need a lot of power to push that much bass to the speaker because it's self-powered. So you can drive this with like an AVR and have no problems belting out this kind of bass from the center channel speaker. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to feel bass from their center channels. They like to cross them over at like 80 Hertz, 90 Hertz, 120 Hertz. But once you hear a center channel with this much bass, you can really appreciate the type of weight, the type of bass, the type of extension that can come from a center channel speaker. That mixed in with the left and right channels creates such a good front sound stage that you just don't get with satellite speakers that are really crossed over at 80 Hertz or 100 Hertz. So this is quite a dynamic experience. And also with the 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter, you do get the crisp sounds, the nice S's, without having any kind of sibilance or anything like that. Just nice, smooth top end all across the board, extending over to the left and right channel speakers. So at the time of this video, the DM30 center channel speaker is selling for $1,500. The DM70 towers are selling for $2,000 each. So for a pair, it's going to be $4,000. Now, there are a lot of speakers in this price range, but I'm going to tell you what, the first time that I heard this demo at an audio show, I just knew I had to get this speaker package in. I know it's not the full speaker package with surrounds and surround back or even ATMOS channels, but just for a left, right, and center channel speaker, I feel the need, like I would really want to see what like a whole setup with DM70s all around the room would sound like, because I feel like it would be absolutely standout. I mean, when I heard it at the audio show, that's kind of what they were running, and this was probably one of the best, if not the best, speaker system that I heard at that show. Besting speaker system that cost maybe like 10 times as much. So we'll just put it at that. And for me, the DM70s, they don't quite have the same refinement as something like, say, maybe like a Golden Ear T66 or the Perlisons. These are so dynamic sounding because they do have the powered towers. They do have the powered subwoofer section along with the center channel as well, that these things can belt out so loud and so detailed and crisp that I really just found the entire system such a fun sounding speaker system. And that's not something I really say with a lot of speakers that I review, because you get so much dynamic bass on the low end. You also get the same extension in the center channel, and you know, all the speakers that I usually review, you got to use subwoofers with them. This system, you don't have to do that, and I really was excited to get this in for review, and I'm super glad that I did, because this is something that I'm really considering actually like buying these for my own living room system. One thing about this is that, you know, with Dolby Atmos, surround sound and all that, I do think you might prefer kind of a more direct presence, more of a monopole-esque presence to them without having the bipolar feel to them. So I think if you were, like I mentioned earlier, I think if you were gonna have like an entire surround setup, you might wanna just knock down the back channels, the back drivers a bit, and knock them down to that negative 6 dB. I mean, I wish there was an option like a dial where you can go from 0 up to maybe like plus 6 dB or whatever it is. So I would like the option to like turn it down, you know, lower than negative 6 dB. For my space, at least, I did prefer the negative 6 dB. If you are in a smaller space, then 100% I can see why you might prefer having the full bipolar effect. So I mean, that's one thing that I would like to see, just an adjustable knob on the back of that. I would also like to see maybe an adjustable phase on the back of each speaker as well. So just in case you have some, you know, you got a null or something like that in your main listening position, it might be nice to have that built into the speaker rather than having to go into your AVR processor and adjust it from there. So that might be something that could come in a future iteration. As far as like looks, you know, I do think this looks better than the last generation of speakers, but you still do have that non-removable grill that wraps around the entire speaker. I can see where a lot of people might feel a little uneasy about the way that it looks. You might not think it's the most attractive look at all, but I do think it's better looking than the last generation. Not exactly my cup of tea, but you know, for the sound quality that it puts out, I can definitely overlook it. Now, as far as the center channel is concerned, like I said, man, this is just as good as like the Perlisten and the Focal Utopia that I've heard. It's not quite as refined as those on the top end, but everything from mid-range down all the way to the bottom, octaves, this thing for its size absolutely just destroys. I love this center channel speaker. I just love the whole setup all as a whole. Like I said, man, in a small size room, this speaker system is going to stand out. It's going to rock. It's such a fun sounding speaker setup. And I think if you are in the market for just some really dynamic speakers and you're not like a real picky audiophile, you don't want the absolute upper end, most transparent detail. You want something that has a very nice, smooth, neutral presence to it. A little soft on the top end, but just the dynamics that really hit you from the bottom end on down from about 30 hertz. I'm gonna say this speaker package is a true knockout and something that I would be absolutely happy to own. So if you guys are interested in picking up any of these speakers, I will leave some links for them down below in this video's description. So what are your thoughts on Definitive Technology speakers, specifically these ones, DM70s and the DM30? How do you think about having powered towers? Would you like to have speakers with powered subwoofer sections? If so, leave your comment down below and let me know. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video if you found it useful, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.